So imagine humanity is standing on the very edge of extinction.
Right.
And we aren't just talking about our first time at the edge, but our fifth.
Which is a pretty staggering thing to just casually throw out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And even wilder, the proposed solution to survive this impending wipeout isn't, building better technology or establishing some colony on Mars.
No, not at all.
The solution actually involves completely abolishing every single law on planet Earth.
It's it really fundamentally reorients everything we assume about how civilizations survive.
It really does. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping straight into a single, just deeply fascinating source text that you shared with us.
Yeah, it's a translated 2024 essay, right?
Right, titled The Future of Humanity Should Be Like This by an author known as Deiform Buddha.
Such an interesting title.
Yeah, and our mission today is to unpack this sweeping, highly philosophical manifesto. I mean, it makes massive claims about human history. It completely dismantles the major global economic systems we rely on every day. And, well, it offers a radically different blueprint for our survival.
And before we get too deep into the weeds here, because this text explicitly critiques and dissects highly politically charged models.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about capitalism, socialism, entirely new forms of communism. We really need to establish our baseline for this analysis.
Absolutely.
We are just looking at the architecture of the author's argument. We are entirely impartial here.
Yes, 100% impartial.
We are not endorsing any of these viewpoints. We aren't taking political sides left or right. And we're certainly not advocating for the systems the author proposes.
Right. Our sole focus is just to convey and analyze the fascinating, complex ideas contained in the original source material you provided.
Exactly.
So consider us your guides through a very unexpected philosophical landscape.
I like that.
To start, let's look at that staggering premise I mentioned at the top, right? The idea of a fifth extinction.
Yeah, that's where it all kicks off.
Because usually when we think about human history, we picture this steady upward climb. We discover fire, we invent the wheel, we build microchips.
Right, a linear progression.
Exactly. We just assume our survival is guaranteed as long as we keep, innovating. But the author states that archaeologists, through scientific exploration and research, believe humanity has actually gone extinct 4 times already.
And the twist here is where the author places the blame for that.
Right, because it's not what you'd expect.
No, the text argues that these previous 4 extinctions were not caused by giant meteors or sudden ice ages.
Right.
The root cause was entirely internal. The primary reasons for those wipeouts were what the author describes as an overall spiritual degradation and the dimming of the human heart.
Okay. Let's unpack this for a second.
Sure.
Because it's like the author views human history not as this linear timeline of progress, but almost like a repetitive video game.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and we keep getting a game over because we fail the moral levels, not the technological one.
Exactly. We build up these massive civilizations and then crash the system from the inside out.
But I have to push back on the logistics here a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
How does a dimming heart, which sounds like a very poetic internal moral failing.
Yeah.
How does that actually translate to a physical extinction crisis? I mean, you don't just blink out of existence because people are acting selfishly.
Well, the author actually defines the mechanics of that dimming heart very specifically, and it is entirely about cause and effect.
Okay.
The text outlines the core factors of this spiritual degradation. It's the pursuit of sensory pleasures, the relentless quest for power, and the fierce competition for survival resources.
Okay. So it gets physical pretty quickly.
Right. When the author talks about the dimming of the human heart, they point to 2 main signs. First, a disregard for the creator.
Okay.
And second, a profound lack of appreciation for natural resources and for life itself.
So it's essentially a fatal disconnect from the environment.
Precisely. When a species loses its reverence for the ecosystem it inhabits, that internal spiritual flaw manifests as external physical destruction.
Wow. Yeah.
Think about how we view nature today, right? If an entire global population looks at a forest not as a vital part of the life cycle, but simply as, unused lumber to be monetized.
The behavior changes completely.
Drastically. You stop living in harmony with your environment, you start strip mining it.
Right.
The author's logic dictates that long-term physical survival is impossible if a species' default posture toward its environment is exploitation rather than appreciation.
And then the quest for power leads to wars over those diminishing resources, which just compounds the physical destruction,
Exactly.
which really brings this ancient cycle crashing right into your daily life.
It really does.
Because the text claims that modern human society is teetering on this exact same cliff right now.
Yep. The fifth extinction.
The author looks at our modern world and says, hey, we are matching the exact levels of spiritual degradation that preceded the 4 previous extinctions.
They point to the obsessive pursuit of wealth, boundless greed, extravagant squandering, insatiable desires.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at your own Amazon order history or, you scroll through the daily news cycle of geopolitical conflicts over oil or rare earth metals,
It's all right there.
the author is basically saying, I have seen this pattern before and it ends in a total wipeout.
The diagnosis is that humanity faces an imminent crisis. Our current frenzy for competing for survival resources is basically the smoke before the fire.
Right.
And because this crisis is framed as so imminent, the author then evaluates the political and economic systems we currently use to steer society just to see if they can save us.
And if you think about the major systems we use to run the world, the author grades them all on a curve of survival.
And spoiler alert,
Yeah, the grading is brutal.
it really is. The text evaluates the major paths human societies have taken and concludes they are all fundamentally flawed when it comes to preventing this 5th extinction.
So what does this all mean? The author is presenting us with this bleak, multiple-choice test where every single answer is wrong.
Right.
It's like having to choose between a leaky boat and a burning car. Neither one is going to get you across the river alive.
That's a great analogy. Let's look at how the text actually breaks down these options.
Okay, let's do it.
First, you have socialist collectivization. The author argues that choosing this path means the toiling masses can only live in poverty.
Okay, so that's the downside.
But there is a massive caveat. The text claims the overall human lifespan will actually extend under the system.
Right. Now, on the other side of the economic spectrum, the text examines market-oriented capitalism.
And opting for the capitalist path brings about the maximal development of productivity.
It allows the toiling masses to lead affluent lives.
Yes, but, and it's a big but, the text claims that under capitalism, the overall human lifespan will actually shorten.
Shorten?
Wow.
Wow. And just to round out the list, there's a third path mentioned, which is military control.
Right, but the author dismisses this one outright.
Yeah, calls it purely barbaric, stating it only results in poverty and societal chaos. So military control is just totally off the table.
Completely.
But I want to dive deep into that capitalism versus socialism dynamic because the cause and effect feels entirely backward to how we normally think.
It does seem counterintuitive at first glance.
Right. Like, why does the text claim socialism extends lifespan while capitalism shortens it, especially when capitalism is the path that supposedly brings affluence?
Right, because usually when we think of affluence, we think of
Better hospitals, advanced medicine, higher quality food, people living well into their 90s.
exactly. To understand this paradox, though, we have to look at how the author defines the word lifespan. We usually think of lifespan on an individual level. My life, your life. But the author is evaluating lifespan on a species level.
Ah, I see. Like, how long does the human race have left on the clock?
Exactly. The text argues that the specific type of affluence generated by capitalism relies entirely on the maximal development of productivity.
Right. Making more stuff faster.
And maximal productivity inherently requires the massive, rapid, and relentless depletion of natural resources.
You're burning the furniture to heat the house, and eventually there is just no house left.
That is exactly it. The text warns that this rapid depletion triggers a backlash from nature.
A backlash.
Right. Whether it's ecological collapse, resource scarcity, or the ensuing wars over what's left, that backlash is what ultimately threatens and shortens the human lifespan as a whole.
So capitalism might give the toiling masses a temporary burst of extreme affluence, but it dramatically accelerates our trajectory toward that 5th extinction.
Nailed it.
So then, in the author's view, socialism extends the species' lifespan, essentially, because a society living in poverty just isn't hyper-consuming.
Right. Without that insatiable engine running at maximum speed to turn out, new smartphones and fast fashion.
The environment isn't pushed to the point of a catastrophic backlash.
Exactly. The overall time frame for human existence stretches out, even if the daily reality for the masses is marked by poverty.
Man, that is a deeply grim trade-off.
It really is.
You can be affluent and crash the planet in a few generations, or you can be impoverished and stretch our survival out for millennia.
And it clarifies why the author completely rejects both traditional left-wing and right-wing paradigms as viable solutions.
Neither one actually works.
Nope. Neither traditional socialism nor capitalism passes the ultimate test of keeping humanity alive and thriving long-term. Both are viewed as fatal dead ends.
So if both wealth and poverty under our current models lead to failure, there has to be a third option, right?
There is.
What is the proposed escape hatch? Because since the traditional paths are out, the text introduces its ideal path for the future of humanity.
Shui-Feng-style communism.
Yes. And we need to be very, very clear about how the author frames this.
Definitely.
The text explicitly notes that this is absolutely not the communism advocated or practiced by Marx, Lenin, or Mao Zedong.
No. This is an entirely distinct, newly defined system.
Right.
But the most surprising element of this proposal isn't just the theory, it's the timeline.
Oh, this blew my mind.
The author claims that Shui-Feng-style communism is not just an idea waiting to be tested. The text states it has already been practiced on Earth for 15 years.
Just think about the implications of that for a second. The author is claiming this radical new system has been running in the background of our modern world for a decade and a half.
And the success rate they claim is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, the text states that this system can permanently solve nearly 90% of the challenges humanity faces.
90%.
And they give very specific examples, ranging from massive, volatile geopolitical issues like territorial disputes between nations, all the way down to domestic logistical issues like elder support.
90% of human problems permanently solved.
It's a huge claim.
It is. And whenever a system claims to solve problems at that scale, the immediate analytical question has to be, how does it operate?
Right. What's under the hood?
What is the mechanism handling the sheer complexity of global logistics, dispute resolution, and resource allocation?
Well, the author's answer represents a complete departure from how modern societies function.
Really does.
Because logically, to solve 90% of global problems, you would assume we need the most complex, robust, perfectly engineered legal framework in human history.
Like a super constitution that covers every possible edge case.
Exactly. But the author argues the exact opposite.
Right.
The text states that the more extensive and detailed the content and clauses in constitutions, laws, and regulations, the more problems will actually arise.
The author basically views our legal infrastructure as bloated and counterproductive.
Yeah.
Complex legal systems require massive amounts of management personnel. You need lawyers, judges, politicians, compliance officers, border guards, tax auditors.
And this goes on and on.
The text argues that this ever-growing layer of management inevitably leads to higher societal operational costs. It just becomes this unsustainable burden that drags society down rather than elevating it.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The author's solution is to just rip it all out. Quote, all constitutions, laws, and regulations should be abolished.
Every single one.
Every single one. I mean, abolishing all laws sounds like trying to run a massive global software system by deleting all the underlying code and just hoping the billions of users suddenly decide to have really good vibes.
That's a fun way to picture it.
I mean, the idea of zero bureaucracy sounds appealing on a Friday afternoon, sure, but
Uh-huh.
how does replacing concrete enforceable laws actually solve physical logistical problems? Like, if two nations are fighting over a river that provides their drinking water, how do you solve that territorial dispute without a treaty? How do you ensure millions of elderly people receive daily care without a tax code to fund it or laws to mandate it?
Well, it forces us to entirely rethink the concept of societal order.
Okay, how so?
The author isn't suggesting violent anarchy. They are suggesting a complete replacement of our societal operating system.
So swapping the code, not just deleting it.
Exactly. Currently, we use external laws that force compliance through the threat of punishment. The author proposes replacing those external laws with internal values.
Internal values.
Yes. The text states that laws should be replaced with values for the orderly functioning of society. And to facilitate this, the author has actually prepared what they call the 800 values for new era humanity.
Okay, wait. 800 values, that is a massive cognitive load for an individual to just memorize, let alone internalize.
It sounds overwhelming, I know. But let's look at the underlying logic of why the author thinks this is absolutely necessary. The text posits that complex legal systems are merely band-aids, covering up a spiritually degraded society.
Oh, circling back to the dimming heart.
Exactly. If you have a global population suffering from a dimming heart, people who are inherently greedy, power-hungry, and disconnected from nature, you absolutely need millions of laws to stop them from stealing, polluting, and destroying each other.
Because they can't govern themselves.
Right. The laws manage the friction caused by that spiritual decay, but they do not cure the disease.
So in this framework, the fact that we have millions of laws is actually proof of how sick our society is.
Yes,
The laws are symptoms.
that is exactly it, and that friction is what the text targets. The author argues that if humanity undergoes a specific spiritual purification, and the text actually notes, the author has prepared a course for this as well.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah, and if everyone successfully internalizes these 800 values, the root cause of societal friction just simply disappears, basically. If every single person fundamentally values life, reveres nature, and has completely shed their boundless greed, the need for external enforcement vanishes.
Right. You wouldn't need a massive environmental protection agency or, a law telling a corporation not to dump toxic waste into a river.
Because the people running the corporation would find the very concept abhorrent to their core values.
Okay, applying that logic to the specific examples in the text really clarifies the mechanics.
Let's do it.
So take elder care. In our current system, we need sprawling government agencies, complex tax brackets, and thousands of pages of regulations just to administer elder care because people naturally prioritize their own immediate nuclear family or, well, personal wealth.
Right.
But if the internalized societal value is a deep, unshakable reverence for every human life, the community naturally absorbs the responsibility of caring for the elderly.
Exactly. You don't need a tax code to force funding because the care is provided organically out of a shared duty.
And consider the other major example, the territorial disputes between nations. Wars are fought over power, resources, and historical grievances. But if the pursuit of power and the frenzy for competing for resources are recognized by the entire population as the exact spiritual failings that cause human extinction...
Those desires are discarded.
Exactly. If society purifies itself of the need to dominate, the very concept of a national border becomes obsolete.
There's no dispute to mediate because there's no relentless quest for power driving the conflict.
The boundaries just dissolve naturally.
It is a breathtakingly radical vision.
It really is. It requires nothing less than an evolutionary leap in human consciousness.
Yeah.
The author is essentially saying that we cannot legislate our way out of this fifth extinction. You can't write enough laws to save a species that wants to consume itself.
We have to evolve our way out of it internally.
Right. The text puts it plainly, quote, "To live a happy life and ensure the continued existence of humanity on Earth, all humans must undergo a spiritual purification."
It is an all-or-nothing proposition.
Compl-
The author shifts the burden of survival entirely away from the external structures we've built, our governments, our legal systems, our economies, and places it squarely on the internal landscape of the human heart.
Which brings us to the core takeaway for you, the listener, as you go about your day.
Absolutely.
Whether you are actively prepping for a debate on the effectiveness of modern governance, or you're just insanely curious about how alternative philosophies view our world, this text demands a shift in perspective.
It really challenges you to look at things differently.
It challenges you to look at the massive legal systems, the endless political debates, and our bustling, hyper-productive economies, not as undeniable signs of an advanced, thriving civilization, but potentially as glaring symptoms of our moral failings.
Right.
It asks you to consider if the very things we think are saving us are actually evidence that our hearts are dimming.
It demands that we interrogate our own definitions of progress and success. I mean, are we measuring success by how fast we can produce and consume? Or are we measuring it by our capacity for long-term harmony with the planet?
It forces us to ask if our current trajectory is actually aligned with our survival as a species.
Yes.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over based on a very specific claim in this text.
Oh, but this is the kicker.
It is. The author states that this Zhuofeng-style communism, this massive, frictionless system operating entirely on 800 internalized values instead of constitutions or laws, has already been actively practiced on Earth for 15 years.
Right.
Just think about the sheer magnitude of that claim. If a system exists that genuinely solves 90% of humanity's deepest, most complex logistical and social problems, and it has been successfully running somewhere on this planet for a decade and a half.
What does that mean?
Exactly. What does it say about human nature or our fragmented global media landscape that the rest of the world hasn't noticed it?
Or why hasn't it scaled globally?
Right. If the ultimate cure to our fifth extinction is already here, just hiding in plain sight, what is keeping the rest of humanity from taking it?
It's a lot to think about.
It really is. Thank you for sharing such a thought-provoking, paradigm-shifting source text with us. It certainly gives us all a lot to process today. We will catch you on the next deep dive.